thank my co-workers for coming in today, and the reason I asked you to come was that my class at Carson Newman, we had a group project, and my group members were Bethany Parsons and Jennifer Williams. And what we decided to research was autism, and so we did a lot of reading of different journals. And throughout the reading, we kept coming across something called social stories. Now, I know that all of us have heard of social stories, and we do a lot of visuals in our classroom. But the more research that we did as a group, and the research that I did, I'm finding out that the more you use social stories, the more you incorporate social stories in your day, will help with increasing communication, helping with social behavior, and will help with problem behaviors. So we decided to put our focus on those three things. That using social stories increases communication and improves social skills and addressing challenging behaviors. So part of our project was to do a literature review, which I've spoken of, and we read a lot of journals. And then what we were trying to do was find best practice. What are some best practices for working with children with autism when it comes to communication, improving their social skills, and addressing their challenging behaviors? And what we came up with was social stories. Each one of us kept seeing social stories. Carol Gray's social stories were being used with some good success. So that's what we ended up doing. And then we had to look at a journal that our article would go with. So we looked at the journal called Teaching Exceptional Children. So this, our project is to write a journal article, and we want to submit it to Teaching Exceptional Children. So our key finding was, again, that social studies have been shown to increase communication, improve social skills, and address challenging behaviors of children on the spectrum. So as we were reading, we found some other things that were interesting, that it doesn't only have to be used with children on the spectrum. This can work with children who enjoy education. So the nice thing about it is it's ebb and flow. So sometimes I've offered to use it with a child in a regular classroom, and sometimes I use it with kids in special ed. Sorry. Sorry about that. So I read an article by Quill, and it was written in 1995, and it talked about that it's the development of communication skills is really closely connected to a child's behavior and social skills. So that's kind of why we decided to focus on these three areas, because they're intertwined and they work together. And then Carol Gray and Mr. Garland said that that the social stories give us straightforward access to the social information, because a lot of kids with behavior issues or on the spectrum, they don't understand social cues. They don't understand social etiquette per se. So sometimes we have to just explicitly teach them how to get along socially in society. And then Adams, Gravius, I think is how you say it, Van Loo, and Walden, they discovered that using social stories with a group of some young boys, and they targeted 4 behaviors and during some homework routines. And so at home, the social stories were used at home. And what the interesting thing was, the teacher said that whatever they were doing at home with the social stories about their homework, that was carrying over in their classroom. So even sending these social stories home was helping the child generalize and come to school and do those same routines. And so it also helped one particular student. It decreased his crying, and he began to respond differently to frustrations. Because we know that all behaviors are telling us, they're trying to tell us something. They're trying to communicate something. And when a child's frustrated, then you're going to see the behaviors. And so the use of social stories was helping him understand how he can respond to his frustrations. So I want to show a couple examples. This is a little blurry. I apologize. I'm going to give you a copy here. But for instance, for increasing communication, we have topics of conversation, especially with our older kids. they don't know how to start a conversation, or they get really fixated on one thing, and all they want to talk about is, for instance, air conditioners. And we have a student in our school that does that. All he wants to do is talk about air conditioners. Well, kids don't always want to talk about air conditioners, but that's okay. So this will help him understand, or other children like that. You know, you can start a conversation. I have a favorite topics that I like to talk about. I like to tell my friends about my topic, okay? My friends listen to me talk about my topic. My friends will listen for a little while. Then it's my friends' turn to talk, because lots of times they just want to talk and talk about what they want to talk about. My friends may have their favorite topic to talk about too. Their favorite topic may be different than my favorite topic. I should listen to their topic. That is polite. I will try to take turns talking. My friends are happy when I take turns talking. And you'll see pictures. Lots of times children that are on the spectrum respond to pictures instead of just words. And so the other one here is improving social skills. And this is about personal space. And that's a social skill. You've got to learn. You don't get in somebody's face. You have to have a proper spacing between the person. And so this story is talking about the personal space. It says some people like to be together. And when people are together, they usually like to have a little bit of space between themselves and other people. A little bit of space is about the length of an arm, and so it shows an arm stretched out. They feel better if they have this space, and the space is called personal space. And I know I use that word a lot. About your personal space, people try to have a little distance between them. People try to remember to give others personal space. This is a smart thing to do. So we're just reinforcing the behavior that we want to see. Addressing challenging behaviors, we have a lot of kids on the spectrum, that when they have a thought, they want to tell you right down there. So we want to help with that behavior. So this is just an example. I have good manners. I do not interrupt when others are talking. I'm quiet when the teacher is talking to someone else. So we're trying to teach them that, you know, there's a time when you can join in the conversation, but you don't interrupt others. And so then there's another one I wanted to throw in, is teaching a routine. I use that a lot. I use social stories a lot to teach a routine. And so this happens to be an example of circle time rules. What do you do in circle time? Number one, you have your hands together. You have quiet sitting. You listen to your teacher. You listen to the other students. You raise your hand when you want to speak, and that circle time would be fun. And so you always need to kind of have these on hand and ready. And so I keep mine in plastic sheets. This. I'm going to pass these around. But you can make them any way you want them to be, and I'm going to show you a couple of websites that you can use. I've even imported students' pictures. I made it very personal. And that helps because when they see themselves, they think it's really cool. But it can be in different ways. It could be one sheet. It could be several pages. I'll pass that around. This was another personal space one, but it's several pages. You know your kids. You know if they need a lot of verbiage or writing, or they just may need pictures. But you know your own children, and you can take care of that. You can make up your own stories. So here's some resources. There's several books by Carol Gray. Most of us know of her work. Then I found these two, and I hope this link works. This is the bomb, if you ask me. Okay, this is awesome. They're already pre-made, and you fix them to make them work for you. So, for instance, there's tons of them. And I have printed them all out, so I have them. Let's see. There's even one, the lockdown drill. You know, lots of times kids can't deal with the alarms. I'm not sure if this is going to happen, you know. There are some very personal ones up here that we won't look at, but they're there. Rules, safety, danger, screaming. Now that's a good one. Let's see. Oh, that would be, may not be able to. I'll try. Let's see. This may not pull up, but if it doesn't, that's okay. I will share this with you. But it's not gonna work. But anyway, there they are. They're just like this, okay? So they're gonna come like this, and all of us have access to Board Maker. But you would just, basically, I just change what it says, if I don't like what it says. I've made it smaller, and then some kids respond better to real pictures, and so I do use my camera and put real pictures in there. You can do that as well. But this is really a good way to start. If you don't know what to say, this is a good website to go to. And then the other website is Special Education Technology from British Columbia. And there's tons, there's different sections, young adults, school, communication device displays, seasons and all that. So, we want to go here. Let's see. Teacher sports. And then the nice thing is most of them, here's one, washroom story. The nice thing is you can do, it comes in a PDF file, a Word doc that you can actually change, and it takes you to Board Maker. So there's some nice resources, and I hope that you take the time to look at those on your own. Does anybody have any questions, or have you used social stories before?
Yes.
Learning to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing that right now. And one thing that I know I've learned is consistency when using it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know I'm preaching to the choir. You know, we give these social stories to our general ed teachers, or we give them to other people, and we say, you know, do this. They'll try it once. Okay, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Keep at it. Promise it'll work.
Yes.
I think we all know that. So, use a social story. It may have to change down the road. That's fine. But you have to give it time to work, and that's one big thing I've learned with social stories. Well, I want to thank my cohorts for coming, and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.